I hear you perfect. Perfect.
Great, great, great.
Miss G, how are you so fly today? It's Friday. I mean, what is it? You just too
Hey
Hollywood right
man,
now.
I don't know. You gotta do whatever you can to keep yourself moving in these coronavirus days.
You looking real fly.
Thank you,
All right, there you
thank
go.
you. What
Round up.
dog do we have? What dog is this in the background?
Missy is giving me a hard time today. You know why? Because the
Oh, okay,
weather's
got
good.
it.
She wants to
Mm,
go outside and she likes to run away. Her little shot collar
mm.
is not working, so we'll deal with her. I'll get to you.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, all right.
Rounduppers, thank you for joining me. You know, in this crazy world, obviously, neither one of us have time to stop and just cut the camera on, but we made time for you today. Thank you, Miss G, for that.
Of course,
Simone,
of
my
course.
friend Simone Griffin, she is one of our newsletter editors. And this month, her article is about, obviously, writes about Airbnb, but she has several Airbnbs in the DC area.
Hmm.
And this week you were telling me something about to the fact, you know what's weird? I noticed that my Airbnb wasn't cranking like it usually was. And I had
Hmm.
not even correlated the two until you brought it up.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you for that, Miss G. So tell me what's been
Hmm.
going on with you, Simone Griffin.
Well, we started getting. I started noticing it actually about a week ago today. We started getting more and more cancellations, and some guests didn't say anything, but you did have guests that were saying, we have to cancel because my father is elderly, and then that's been a lot of them. And my parents are older. We're bringing them for the cherry blossoms or whatever it is, and so we can't do that. Makes perfect sense. So that started happening last Friday actually, and then we have been getting them in droves all week long. Airbnb, this is actually a really good timely conversation because for the whole week, Airbnb has been getting bad press about not giving Americans refunds, full refunds. And I have to say, on two of my properties, we do have very strict cancellation policies. On two of them, one is moderate, one is pretty flexible, but the strict cancellation policies have been problematic for the guests because the guests want to cancel and they're canceling basically like we have people checking in today, for example, and they tried to cancel on. If you have a strict cancellation policy, you can't cancel after maybe 48 hours of making the reservation. So
Mm-hmm.
Airbnb. So what I did is I was willing to give them a full refund, even though of course it hurt my pockets. But I get it. This is not a personal decision or anything like that. This is related to a pandemic. So we were willing to give them full refunds, but Airbnb for a long time was not. And Airbnb was saying, unless you're coming from China, South Korea, or Italy, we are not giving refunds for anybody else other than people coming from those three countries. And that was a major issue. Um, I had guests call Airbnb and I told them, look, I cannot issue you a refund. I can't go above Airbnb. You're going to have to contact them. You're going to have to communicate with them. And if they say we're willing to do it, I'm willing to do it. So that happened to me with three guests this week. One woman canceled because her conference was canceled. Again, two gentlemen who were traveling with their parents. So that kind of stuff is happening often. And then you just got people who are skittish. I get it. Anyway, just about an hour ago, Airbnb released a statement that they are adding the U.S. to their emergency outbreak scenario, which is basically that in addition to South Korea, Italy, China, and I think maybe Japan, I could be wrong about that, but I know the first three. In addition to those, the U.S. is now going to be added. So that means that any guest who has a reservation can cancel with no penalties, which is great for the guest. It's not great for the host, obviously, but I really don't know how much how many other options we have to hold on to somebody's money who hasn't even checked in when we're dealing with a pandemic. We didn't feel that that was fair. We didn't, so we opted not to. But you can
I
make
see.
the decision that works best for you.
Let me ask you, Roundup, if you're just joining us, I got my dog here, Simone Griffin, up in Washington,
Mm,
D.C. We are talking about this coronavirus affecting, I get on my soapbox from time to time
mm,
and say that rents are still due no matter what, but I'm opening up and just being realistic and saying that we're all interdependent. Tell me about your cancellation policy pre-coronavirus, Miss G.
Well, like I said, on some of my units, especially the more expensive units, they were strict cancellation policies.
Which
Airbnb has a set, which is I think after you can cancel with no penalty within the first 48 hours of booking,
okay,
and then after that you've got a 50% fee if you book,
gotcha,
and then I think if it's 5 days out, nothing,
gotcha,
100%.
gotcha,
And normally I am fully behind that because we as hosts, we do a lot of work, first of all, to get the place prepared. But more
servicing.
importantly, exactly, more importantly, somebody else could have booked that space
Mm,
with you, and so that's a potential loss of money. So if you are not coming, it's fine, life happens, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I should be out of money. And again, I find that my cheaper units, it's much easier to book them. So my policy is much more flexible on my less expensive units because I can get those booked really fast. But my higher price units, we have a strict cancellation policy on it. And it typically works very well. We don't have anybody, and yes, there have been times where I've been a completely unforeseen circumstance. I consider this as one of those unforeseen circumstances. But if I will tell you that somebody reached out to me and just said, let's say they had a reservation on Friday, for example, and
hmm
they're asking if they can just cancel because I don't know, they just don't feel like it or whatever. I'm not going with that. The only reason I'm going with is coronavirus, which again, anybody could make that up at this point. Anybody could say that, and I'm not going to go back and forth on it. But
Yeah.
we're making special exceptions for this
Mm.
particular incident, not in life though.
So pre-coronavirus, even for me, I'm looking at mine. It's like 50. It's
Hmm.
50%. You pay half of what
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. And it's a three. There are three levels. There's strict, moderate, and flexible. And like I said, we've either done strict or flexible. I
hmm
do flexible on my cheaper ones. I do strict on our more expensive ones. And we
Gotcha.
just find that it works better with the flow.
Mm, gotcha. So tell me about these. Are they? I remember. I thought you told me you were getting several in a day. Tell me about how this. Paint the picture
Uh-huh.
for me as you're thinking about. Obviously, this is your income.
We're getting several a day. We've got, so what we are
Wow.
doing now, we've just been thinking about how we're going to handle this. My sister-in-law came up with a really great idea. Because my sister-in-law is foreign. She wasn't born here. So she was like, really, if you tap into the university students the schools are closing now
Yeah,
and
it's
they need
true.
somewhere to go. And so if the dorms aren't open, they may want to stay. What we're trying to figure out now is how do we reach them? I would think / hope they would go to an Airbnb and look up sites. So we're hoping that comes through. In the interim, we're starting to list it on for long-term rental. One of them is going to be listed for long-term rental now. What we'll have to do, if we get a long-term rental, we'll have to shift future Airbnb guests to other areas. And the only reason we're considering this is because we had already thought of taking it off the platform anyway. Um, we're getting good bookings in the spring and summer, but we realized that the long-term rents have gone up to the point where it's probably better for us to take our more expensive units off of Airbnb and do long
Wow.
term. Yeah. So again, but it really matters based on the price of your unit, where it is, and all of that kind of stuff. I'm not saying I'm not abandoning Airbnb. I still got 3 units on there, but
Mhm.
for one or two of them, the more expensive ones, we have just found that based on neighborhood and desirability, our long-term rents are going to get about the same, if not more, than Airbnb, and we're going to have to do less work.
Let's
So
work.
we had already decided that we really decided that after the peak season in DC, we were going to go ahead and list it long term. But
Mhm.
now with Airbnb, with their issues with the coronavirus, we're putting it out for rent now. We'll see what we get. Maybe we get nothing. Maybe we get something. I mean, who's to say? But we're listing it and we'll see how it goes.
What is in your mind, what is the definition of a long-term tenant? What do you mean by that? Is that a year
A
lease, a
lease,
month lease?
a six, yep, yeah, 6 months to a year. This case will do a year lease.
Hmm.
hmm And so I don't know. Again, I don't know what the market is going to look like right now. I don't know if people are panicking to the point where they're not looking at places to live. I don't know that part. But
Yeah.
we just figured, you know what? Let's give it a go and we'll try it. But we're also trying to see if we can get in touch with the international students at the universities if they're shutting down dorms.
Well, I know Hampton University shut down.
Yeah.
They
So
said
where are
Sunday.
people going?
My Airbnb is open. I'm glad I asked you. I had no idea. I had not thought about retargeting people because these people are from all around the country. There's no way they're going to
Exactly.
be going home.
Exactly. If the dorms are closed, if I'm thinking that I don't know what schools are doing. I don't know if schools are closing dorms, but even if they're closing dorms, this is a non-issue because they have somewhere to. I mean, I'm sorry, if they're keeping dorms open, this is a non-issue
Yeah.
because they have places
Yeah.
to stay. But if they're closing dorms,
I would
all
think
these
so.
kids need to find somewhere to stay. And our more expensive units will work pretty well because they're larger. They can
Yeah.
fit more people. That's one of the reasons they're more expensive. Plus, they're closer to three major universities in DC: Howard, Georgetown, and GW. So,
Okay.
we probably will get some good people. But yeah, if Hampton is closing, that's a question. Where are these kids going? Are they leaving the dorms open? What's happening?
Wow. I need to find out. I'm glad you.
Yeah.
I got my notes. My
Yeah.
notepad. Oh, I got my millionaire playbook.
There you go.
I need to call HUNC.
Call them and see. Yeah, that's a good question. I would think that they are leaving the dorms open, but who's to say?
We don't know. Well,
We
I
don't
just
know.
last night they shut down one of the schools here, so I drove by literally the middle schools is
hmm
shut down. I can't believe.
Exactly.
I have not watched the news. I have no idea what's going on, Miss G.
Well, the bottom line is it's a pandemic, and more people institutions are shutting down for probably about 14 days because, and look, Chris, I'm on the same page as you. I barely listen to the news, but because this is now impacting business,
Yes.
I have to pay attention to it. And so
Interdependent.
I called, exactly. So I called this one of the people at my office today. She does watch the news all the
Oh
time.
Lord.
She knows everything. So I was just asking her, and Christine was telling me that, right now the quarantine time is 14 days. So what's probably going to happen is they're going to do, if people are self quarantining, it's probably going to be for about 14 days.
Okay.
Schools I don't know, I think some schools are going in and just sanitizing, but kids are germy, hate to say it, but it's real. So it doesn't seem to be impacting kids right now, but kids being germy means that it can travel.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I'm looking at this, and this is taken outside of the Airbnb conversation, but what are these parents going to do if you don't if you can't send your kids to school, but yet you may or may not have to work? So,
Wow.
as you said, the word is interdependent. We are all connected. And I think that is one of the biggest things that's showing up, how connected we are. The fact that this virus started on the other side of the world and it is now impacting all of us. The fact that we are concerned about what somebody else who may live in another town may get, and it changes everything. The fact that if schools close, that means parents can't go to work. And how do we all continue to function in our daily lives? I mean, it's a very real thing. And it's just something that we have to be considerate of. And on the business level, back to Airbnb, I get the other reason why we decided to be flexible with our policy is people don't know. And the challenge is some people are living in a level of fear, and the lack of knowing is what is making it harder for them to function. That's also, you've got people who are working and their stuff is being canceled. So they have no reason to come to Washington. Well, that's not on them. That's not their fault. They didn't just decide that I don't want to do this. But we also had a guest that just canceled because he was like, well, I heard DC is shut down. And I think he's probably right.
Might be.
All of the sightseeing, all the stuff is shut down. So what is the purpose of him coming? If his whole thing was to come and do sightseeing, and here I'm getting another Airbnb message now. Okay, never mind. This is the guest checking in. Thank goodness. if we get anything like that, people are like, well, the whole purpose of me coming to DC is now closed without my will. Well, I mean,
Wow.
yeah, I think that makes sense.
Wow, you're right.
So we have to be considerate of these things. But I am fortunate. I've had all of my guests so far have have been coming in for the unit that I own. They've all come in. And so this guest is checking in today. I do
Praise
have a
God.
guest after her that canceled. But aside from that, March is still pretty good. April is not as full, which
Yeah,
is
tell me
rare.
about
April is usually very full.
yeah, tell me about March, April now as opposed to 2019.
Full. Okay, March begins peak season in DC. And it really runs through November or through October, where, because you've got the spring cherry blossoms, and it's a great time to visit DC, spring and fall. The
Is that right
summer,
now?
we've got a lot of interns coming in. Yeah, that's right now. So starting in March through November, or through October, it's peak season. We're all full. Everybody's full.
Wow.
So the fact that I have a hole, basically the second and third week of April is completely empty now. It was full.
Can't believe it.
These are all cancellations. That's crazy. I've got, again, I have personally, with my unit that I own, I have been very fortunate. I haven't had all of my guests that were supposed to come so far have come. They've checked and they've left. I've had 3 this week. I'm very fortunate. But the guest checking in on, I think it's Sunday, she just canceled last night. And so that's my first cancellation for March. But look, all the other guests not all of them, but most for the other properties, those.
You broke up, Miss G. You said all of the guests for the other properties?
No, can you hear me now?
That sounds better. Yeah, actually.
Okay.
You said the guests for the other properties, then you went dead.
Yeah, they all checked out. No, they all checked out. I'm sorry, I can't hear you as well.
You can't hear me now?
That's what I can hear you. It's not you, it's me. Hold on.
Round up, if you're just joining us, I've got Simone Griffin up in the Washington, D.C. area, just going over the problems that she's experiencing with her bookings with Airbnb based on this coronavirus thing. And I just wanted to share with you that real estate investors, it ain't always pretty. Can you hear me now, Miss G?
I can hear you. It's just a little bit harder for me to hear you, but it's not you, it's me. It should be back now.
Okay.
But yeah, and I heard what you just said.
So the last thing that I heard you say was something about your Airbnb is okay, but the other ones you manage are.
Yeah. The other ones I manage there have been several cancellations with those. We are, it's, who's to say? Who's to say what's to come? The sense is that this is going to pass pretty fast. This whole needs to self-quarantine and stay at home and everything being closed will pass pretty fast. That's a prediction at this point. Who's to say if it's really a guarantee?
Yeah, I'm flying to Dallas on Monday. I'm like, I don't have no idea. I just don't even know what's going to happen. We don't have any idea.
Well, the thing with flying to Dallas is what you're going for. Is it still going to go on?
That's the question I need to find out. I got an email in now to make sure. Well, they did. Ron LeGrand canceled his summit in Las Vegas. That was 5 days in Vegas.
Yep.
It's truly something.
Yeah.
So
most people are canceling at this point.
Yeah. So tell me about, and I know you're busy, income. No doubt you still have mortgages. Just because people aren't staying, you still have an obligation. Are you thinking that the mortgage companies are going to make some type of concession for this, maybe?
Nope. I doubt it. That's been a conversation, though, that has happened, which is our delinquency is going to increase as a result.
Yeah.
They may be more considerate of owner occupants. They're not going, I highly doubt, and this is speaking from my experience on the mortgage side, highly doubt they're going to care if you are an Airbnb investor. So that's the other reason why we started looking at getting long-term renters in for at least one of the units. And we're not we're not canceling Airbnb. We're not doing anything. We're moving in two different directions, like I talked about, the international and the long-term
Yeah,
guests. But I do know that we're not in the position to sit around and wait and hope. We're going to have to kind of take some matters into our own hands, one way or the other.
nice. Well, that's really wow. Roundup. I just wanted to share with you the real life real estate because I think a lot of people think that we got this passive cash flow coming in. Airbnb, it's just thousands of dollars cash flow every month. But who could have predicted that a freaking virus is going to cancel the basketball?
Exactly. Everything has been canceled. I mean, it's just Trump just declared it a national emergency, and it's a really crazy thing. And we do have to be considerate of this on a business level. And this is what I would say to everybody, which is kind of where you're going with this, Chris. We have to think about, okay, although I do think that this is going to be a temporary thing, suppose it isn't. What do we do? How do we protect ourselves?
Wow.
And once we get past this is why it's so important to save and invest and be conservative and all of that. Because look, if it's not this, it could easily be something else. And we have to be conscientious of the fact that things come up in business and in life, and we have to just be prepared for it. Even though, again, who would have known 3 months ago that this would have even been a thing? So we don't, but we have to be very, very conscientious. We have to understand that this is the nature of business. Quite frankly, it's cyclical, and we have to remain somewhat prepared and not assume that just because things are good right now, they're always going to stay good. We don't have to be doomsdayers, but keeping a level of reality in with everything else, and that's that's really important. And the other thing is looking at other options. What are alternatives? What can happen in your market? There is a company, and I cannot remember the name right now, but they help nurses and doctors find housing in local areas. I don't know, and this is something we all should research. Is that going to be bigger now? Are there going to be more traveling nurses? And if there is going to be if there are going to be more traveling nurses and doctors because of this pandemic, they probably need a place to stay. So this is where we look at still getting our goal accomplished with doing the short-term renter, but doing it in a different way.
I'm writing down. I love it. You got Roundup. You better have your millionaire playbook. Write this idea down. I had not thought about that. Traveling nurses, that would be bigger for them. They could come stay. Because my Airbnb, I got to tell you, Miss G, this is the first my Airbnb did. This is the first time I lost money.
Yep.
Since I've been in the Airbnb.
It's a very real thing.
Well,
and you couldn't even have really prepared for it because it seems like it happened within a couple weeks. It was like I said, I just started getting cancellations last Friday. So it happened.
Gotcha. Wow. Roundup, thank you so much for joining us. We'll get Miss G. You got a few seconds for some Q&A. See if we got any questions over here. Yeah, thank you so much for your time. Jason, you just email me at chrisbuys.houses@gmail. Please just email me. Jamie, hey, I have a question. I want to invest $30,000 from a flip, doing like an owner finance deal, lease purchase. Apply for this money or not? I don't understand that one. I'm sorry, Jamie. Do you understand that one, Miss G?
He's saying I have to reinvest from a flip. Okay. Doing owner financing. He's basically asking about owner financing a lease purchase. I mean, yeah, I would think he's asking, can he use that $29K for owner finance deals or lease purchase?
I thought he's talking about apply. I saw that word apply. Only thing when I say apply, I keep thinking about people applying for a loan.
Right.
Yeah, it will apply. Absolutely. You can do that. I would highly recommend you to get that cash and go put down payments on stuff so you can leverage that money. Get your Q&A in here. Any problems? I see a picture. Sorry about that. Prime Minister. I don't know too much about that. I have not watched the news. Christina says Facebook college groups will be a good place to locate college students. I didn't even know they had that.
I see that. Thank you.
Hmm.
Hadn't thought about. I'm gonna have to research Facebook college groups. But thank you.
College groups. Yeah, let me look right now. I'm gonna do it right now. Get your questions in, y'all. College groups. Oh yeah, I guess Hampton University has one. College is this. College we got 20,000.
That's a good
Okay,
point. Yeah.
I didn't thought about that. Thank you for that, Christina.
Mhm.
That's sharp. There we go.
Thank
Somebody
you.
already said that. Traveling nurses. That's a good one.
Yep.
Traveling nurse platform. Oh, somebody
And you
said
know
that.
what? The traveling nurses is a great environment. We hadn't, honestly, the reason why we didn't capitalize on that before is because Airbnb was bringing in so much business, and the traveling nurses need a longer term stay. But
Mhm.
and the one thing about traveling nurses is they need to be there like typically like 3 months or something like that. So it's
Gotcha.
shorter than a lease, but longer than the typical Airbnb, which is fine if you can accommodate that.
I wonder if the judges in
Yeah,
this.
I see. Regular tenants are saying they can't pay rent because of the virus. I know.
Yeah.
I've heard of that too.
I wonder if the judges in the court systems are going to give some leeway on evictions, Miss G. What do you think about that?
Probably.
Good
At some point.
Lord.
It depends on your jurisdiction, of course, but I do know that certain cities are starting to be very sensitive to the ramifications that come with just evicting somebody over something like this.
Mm-hmm. Unbelievable.
And even things like tax liens and all kinds of other stuff being behind, they're really doing some cities. I'm not saying everything else. Oh, thanks. How would you find my units? I'm in DC. Thank you, Todd. Todd is asking how you can find my units. I'm in DC. I've got one is
You
two
can just type
bedroom
you in.
Oasis near Logan Circle.
What is it?
Another one is a
What?
comfy one bath near H Street in the Hill. Another one is Skylight Units. Let's Sleep 7. All
What?
of those two of them are in the U Street corridor, and then really you can look for that and remember, and then just look for my face. U Street corridor for two of them. One is over the Stadium Armory area, and the other one is near H Street.
Don't they see your face? Can you search a host on Airbnb too?
I don't think you can search a host. I think you can only search properties, but if you look in those areas about availability, you should probably see, because we do have these units available right now.
Gotcha.
And I want to share one other thing with you guys that you want to be mindful of, and this may or may not apply to anybody else, but unfortunately, as a result of this virus, there is a level of racism that is occurring
What?
towards Asian people.
How is
And
that?
we have to be really mindful of the fact that we cannot allow hosts or guests to create that level of bias when it's not fair or right. First of all,
How are you
let's
saying?
just
I
think
feel like.
about the
Are you talking
huh?
about discrimination somewhere?
Yeah,
How
discrimination.
so?
Not allowing people. Well, so if you're first of all, it started last month. If Chinatowns across the country started seeing decreased volume of business. Then my sister-in-law told me that she is Asian. She told me that she herself has been experiencing it, and she knows a lot of other Chinese people in the country who are being discriminated against because people inherently feel like because you look Asian, you must have coronavirus, which is
Oh my
literally the
Lord.
dumbest thing in the world.
I
But
didn't even put that together until you just said that.
yeah, so we have to be, as hosts, we have to be very mindful of that. Um, that look, and I will tell you, as somebody, as because I know my brother and sister-in-law just did this. These people coming back into the country, especially from Asian countries, they have to do way more testing than even the people who are in the country. So there is nobody coming in from China or Korea or Japan that
Mhm.
is at higher risk than somebody here, because their testing was so thorough. The US wouldn't have even let them back in the country
Gotcha.
because they were coming from those areas. So
Gotcha.
we just have to be mindful of that as hosts and guests, that we do not create an air of discrimination.
Yeah.
So how did I acquire my Airbnb
Bernard. Hey,
property?
Bernard.
Yeah,
You just converted them.
yeah, that's from Bernard. We already
Todd, the
own them,
millionaire.
Bernard.
Oh,
Yeah,
good, good. She already owned
yeah,
them.
yeah. We already own them. We had them for a while with one building. We just went in and did renovations. I switched over. I had a long-term renter in my unit that I own. I had a long-term renter for a while, but quite frankly, people didn't. It's a basement apartment, and people don't love living in a basement apartment. So it wasn't me. I had high turnover because they just didn't like living in a basement apartment. So we ended up, when Airbnb came along, that really ended up being the perfect solution. I've got another property that we had some issues with it, so that it really worked far better for a short-term renter than a long-term renter. I'm talking about like little repair issues or whatever. Every time we got a long-term renter in there, it became a problem. But with a short-term renter, we could get in there and do the basic work
In and
and
out.
keep going. It was
In and
better.
out. Yeah. Hey, Todd wants to know my millionaire playbook. It's not out yet. No, it will be out hopefully within the next week, my friend. We'll go live with that. What's the best way, Swole Hero? What's the best way to finance rental improvements? I don't know how you do yours, Miss G. Cash, credit card, another line of credit, or what?
Are you asking me?
For us, I don't really do too many repairs other than on the
We
Airbnb.
no, we have had to do cash out refis and all of that, but it requires a lot of money, quite honestly, for a rental to do
Hmm.
improvements.
Yep.
Banks are going to charge you a whole lot. It's different if you live in the house, but when you're doing renters, it's hard. And we had to self-finance the building that we did a full-on overhaul with. Well, we got a loan, but it was with a lot of terms, and it was very
Gotcha.
difficult.
Uh, Session here. International medical teams coming to the DC area. Did you know that?
Good point. Do you know how we access them?
Man, I don't know about that one. We just still have the wholesale if the recession happens. Yes, you would wholesaling. We're buying whole people. So, what's the discussion about Airbnb, coronavirus, and Airbnb? Joy, have you ever thought about renting rooms with short-term leases instead of doing Airbnb, especially given the times now with the coronavirus, Miss G? Renting
Yeah, we would
rooms?
happily do that. We don't mind doing it. The challenge that we're facing in this moment is that I do have guests still booked. I mean, I have guests booked from the end of April all the way through July.
Gotcha.
So it becomes a matter of how do we handle them and handle this gap? And that's
Mm,
the big challenge that we've got right now.
gotcha. Gotcha. Abundant Capital Group. Hey, my friend, do you feel that the virus will cause less sellers to do lease options or subject to deals? I think that's for me. No, I don't have any problem with that. We just took a down payment maybe 2 weeks ago from somebody, I guess before the virus really hit, but people still got to have a place to live. And if they want to live, they want to own a house, they're going to have the money to do it. You know. Okay, Miss G, what are your final thoughts for people that are some people are just getting into or are contemplating doing Airbnb now that you have seen the world come to an end? What are your thoughts now as things are changing? I'm just like, I can't believe I'm speaking these words.
Right. I still think it's a great option and a great opportunity. I think, like with any business, there are going to be highs and lows, some things expected, some things unexpected. This is one of those things. You're going to have to decide for yourself based on your area, your money, and all of that, whether you want to keep on going. But look, long-term renters have issues too. I mean, as one of the
And,
guys said, you got people that, even though they're long-term tenants, they're like, well, I can't pay because of coronavirus either. So
oh,
and
Lord,
maybe I haven't even gotten into it. Maybe that's legitimate. I don't know. So
crazy.
we're always going to have ebbs and flows in business, but
Mm,
with each ebb and flow, you have to really just decide whether this is still serving you. And if it is, if it's a challenge, but it's still serving you, how can you get through it? And you guys have come up with some amazing ideas already.
yeah,
I mean, we've talked about the
video.
international students, you've talked about the international nurses, we've talked about travel and care. All of these people are short-term renters. We've
Hmm.
just got to figure out how do we access them.
Access
I
them.
would think slash hope that they would still utilize an Airbnb as an option, Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but we cannot rely on that. We have to go out and figure out our own way to get to them.
Nice. Okay, I appreciate you for hanging out with me today, Miss G. I look forward to seeing you maybe at the baby shower in a couple of weeks.
Hopefully,
Maybe.
send me the details.
I thought I don't know. Maybe I send it on Facebook. On anyway.
I did see you put that 4D thing on there.
Wait till
I
you
haven't
hear
seen the 4D sonograms. I've seen the 3D, but not 4D.
4D. It's crazy.
Wow.
All right, Rounduppers, I love you. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, hit that thumbs up, and stay tuned. Hit the bell so you know as hopefully I still go to Dallas and hang out with Patrick Bet-David at Valuetainment. I want to bring you in as we go through the whole process. All right, Roundup, I'll see you guys soon. Peace.